Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, coaches around the world, welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. It's your boy, the Road Dog, with none other than the man, the myth, the guy who calls his friends while he's standing in the snow and considers that a cold call, Karl Bryan. Dude, that's not a cold call. Just because you're cold doesn't mean it's a cold call.
Shoots. I like it. I never heard that before.
You know what's funny? I was just thinking, because we were just talking the pre-show about, you said cold call, and I'm like, you know what somebody should do? They should start a YouTube channel, and they should be calling people from an ice bath and just call it like the cold call show.
Shoots. This is gold. Buddy, take that stuff on the road, man. Take it to Whistler and Sun Peaks and Lake Tahoe.
Imagine that would be a hit. Like, I remember, like, doesn't Kevin Hart, he's got a show. I think it's where he's interviewing people, and he calls, I think it's Cold as Balls or whatever they call it. And it's like they both get into ice baths and he's interviewing them as they're both in an ice bath. So there you go.
Shoots. I love everybody listening. You should be doing this. Absolutely. Just become a snowbird. There you go. Anyway, well done, Shoots. Like
Anyways, considering I'm not really funny, and I know you're definitely not, but have you heard any good jokes lately?
Have I heard any good jokes lately?
Yeah. You're like, you tell more dad jokes than your dad. Like, it's kind of crazy. But have you heard any good jokes lately?
My dad is Mr. Dad. When I grew up, he'd play hockey, and we'd drive, and all the kids wanted to ride with me because my dad would tell jokes. He'd smoke big fat cigars, by the way, and disgust us all sitting in the back. But anyways, he would tell so inappropriate dad jokes the whole way. I don't even know if they're dad jokes at that point. But anyways, he would tell jokes to everybody. My car was always full. Some of the other parents just be driving on their own without their kids, and they'd be loaded in the back of mine. So they actually, you know what? Okay, so joke. I actually was watching. What was it? I think it was on Facebook. But anyways, a guy. So what do you call a guy who gets in a lot of car wrecks? Reckless. But shouldn't it be wreckful?
You would think, right?
That sucked. That sucked, Shoots.
That was not great. Not gonna lie to you. What else?
Where do homeless people have 90% of their car accidents?
Oh my God. Where?
So we got to keep moving. I'm losing credibility with my daily joke.
I'm just surprised that there's no jokes about your wife.
Yeah, there we go. My wife.
Yeah,
actually, I sent one out this week, and I said, what was it? It was something to the effect on the third date when I met my wife. She, she was chatting to me. And I said, baby, no, they're not red flags. They're fun facts about me. I get a lot of feedback on that one. They thought it was very funny.
I'm sure they did. All right, let's get this back on the rails. Listen, we always get a lot of questions about just Warren Buffett, coaching advice, whatever. Just, the guy's obviously a legend, right? And I know that you're a big fan of him and his partner and everything. But I just want to just throw it out there, just a little bit more general, I guess, because we get specific questions. But what would you say is some of the best coaching advice that you've heard from Warren Buffett?
Ooh. That's a good question, by the way. Warren, and anybody like Warren Buffett, again, he puts himself out there as kind of like, grandpa, and just like, but he is one shrewd, impressive, but you know what I mean? He is a businessman through and through, and I could only imagine negotiating with him would be difficult negotiation. So like 99% of his wealth was generated after the age of 50. I'd be interested to see what it is after the age of 70, by the way, which I don't know that. But again, it's got that compounding hockey stick type thing going on. But 99% of his wealth after the age of 50. So I don't know, maybe you're not too late. Ray Kroc, we've talked about this, but like Ray Kroc, he was 52 when he started his first McDonald's. I think Colonel Sanders was 61. Henry Ford, he was 41 when he started the Ford Motor Company. The Red Bull guy, the guy that started Red Bull, was in his early 60s. Rodney Dangerfield, legendary actor, by the way, in my opinion. He was 46, 45, 46, 47, like mid to late 40s when he got his first break, right? So like, you're not too late. And also, you only have to be right once. With that said, like Walt Disney went bankrupt with, I think it was like called a laugh-o-gram idea that he had. And Ford, what people don't know, Ford was actually Henry Ford's third car company. And you might already realize it, but the first two failed, and then he hit his home run. After failing two car companies, my question, if you're listening, would you have given up? And believe me, Warren Buffett has had many of strikes and misses, especially early on. I know that Chicken Soup for the Soul guys, they were also denied by like every major publisher. And I know that went on to be, insanely successful. Again, you just need to be right once, even J.K. Rowling, trying to think of some. J.K. Rowling, divorced, broke, single. She wrote Harry Potter, worked out pretty well. Again, happened, I believe, in her 40s. Don't quote me there, but I believe so. Steve Jobs, he got fired by his own damn company, right? In fact, we have a client, actually spoke to him on Friday, legendary. Shout out to JB. And he worked with Steve Jobs and Wozniak, early on, and he has some great Steve Jobs stories, which I pressed them for a few, and I'm pretty sure he was thinking, can we move on from me hanging out with Steve Jobs or working with Steve Jobs back in the 80s? But anyway, it's very interesting, very cool. And it's sometimes fun to speak to people, that work with the absolute legends. And I believe Steve Jobs to be exactly that, an absolute legend. Moral maybe of what I just said, you're not too late. And again, you just need to be right once. The best ideas of the next 20 years, the next Facebook, the next Instagram, the next Uber, YouTube, the next Dell computers, the next Microsoft, the idea it's not that it hasn't been deployed. It's not that they're trying to get it going. The idea hasn't even been thought of yet, right? Like, what does that mean? But actually, hang on. So Warren Buffett, I better get this on the rails here. He's famous for two rules. And if you're listening to this, be amazed if you don't know them. But my question is, do you know them? But are you deploying them? And rule number one is what? Don't lose money. Rule number two is see rule number one. I don't know. Just, don't lose money. The end. Blow up the boat. Speaking of boats, actually, that would be that's another bit of advice that he has got. I don't know the quote, right, but it's something to the effect of a good management record is far more a function of what business boat the business is riding in versus how effectively you row, right? Like what he's saying and the advice and what I'd be taking away if I was a business coach guiding somebody. They can be a really good salesperson. They could be a really good manager, super diligent. You ever heard me say like a superpower of a super successful entrepreneur? Gates, Bezos, Zuckerberg. You love those guys. You hate those guys. Completely irrelevant. Understanding like what does it take to be like, 8, 9, 10, figure operator. It's one word, conscientiousness. So they could have all of that in spades, right? Conscientious can be. Could they still fail? Yes. Could they have like a lame business? Yes. Could they make, very little profit, work very hard over a long period of time? Yes. What would you give them as the secret sauce to catapult them forward? And what Warren Buffett is saying in that quote and what he gives us advice often that I've listened to and heeded, and I think it's very powerful, is that the boat you're in is more important than how you row, right? So, look, example right now staring us all in the face would be artificial intelligence. If you're going to take on artificial intelligence, might be a hard slog, and it's going to cost you some money to get going. To do. See rule number 1 for Warren Buffett, by the way. But like artificial intelligence is a boat on steroids, right? Blockchain, it's like, we were talking in the pre-show a little bit about crypto. I've got a buddy here, like he's a legit heavyweight in the crypto world, and he's forgotten more than, 90 other influencers are going to ever, he's forgotten more than the other influencers added together. No, that kind of love. He's more blockchain than he is crypto. But at the end of the day, those boats, blockchain, I believe that to be. And by the way, blockchain hasn't really connected. We talk about how amazing it's going to be and how incredible it is. It's been around for a little while and it has not quite connected. But I would just suggest that blockchain is a very real opportunity. Anybody doesn't know, like you think about Bitcoin. Bitcoin is Bitcoin because of the blockchain. The blockchain is the platform. Think Atari back in the day, and then Pac-Man, right? So Pac-Man plugs into the Atari. Well, the Atari is blockchain and Bitcoin is Pac-Man, right? Anyways, artificial intelligence is like huge opportunity. I think, you know what, maybe not. Maybe ask Warren Buffett, not me. But he would tell you that that's an example of a boat. So translation, you could be a horrific operator, not know it. You could have no sales skills and no operation skills and build a brand in the artificial intelligence world and actually connect the dot. And the money that you could make would be obscene as a comparison to doing a significantly better job in an industry like where, you're going to go into massage therapy, let's say, okay, like how much does it cost to get a massage? Let's call it $100 for the sake of the argument, right? More, less, whatever. It's $100, but that's an example of a business that he would suggest doesn't have artificial intelligence like opportunities. So no matter how hard you hit it as a massage therapist, you're just never going to be able to play with the artificial intelligence boys that even screw it up, right? Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. But the boat's important, more important than how you row. Another thing that he says, which I think is just gobsmackingly, breathtakingly intelligent, is that he wants to buy something for a penny that he can sell for $1, and he wants it to be habit forming. That is next level advice. Again, buy it for a penny, sell it for $1. Translation: unbelievable margins. Okay, and then habit forming. Recurring revenue. Again, 2 things a company needs to have. I meet somebody, he's 17 years old, wants to go into business. Somebody's 40 years old, wants to go into business. Somebody's 40 years old, has a business and it's going well and they want to take it to the next level. Somebody's 50, whatever. Somebody's got a business. I don't care how old they are. They're like, Karl, is this a good business? Is it going to work? I'm looking for 2 things. Let me see your margins. Let me see your recurring revenues. If I don't see those, and then the opportunity to implement a different business model to see it, no, thank you. So that, habit forming. And then just think Facebook, habit forming. Think, which he does not. Warren Buffett is not a big fan. It's not that he's not a big fan of Facebook. I just don't think that he saw it. And he's just, he's doing like chewing gum, right? Like, chewing gum. Is that habit forming? Yes, right? Coca-Cola. I'll let you decide if that is habit forming. Is it good for you? Is it bad for you? That's, answer to that is obvious, but, habit forming. McDonald's, habit forming. But really, think YouTube, think chewing tobacco, think cigarettes back in the day, habit forming. That's next level. I think you combine those 3 things together, you got yourself the basis of a really great company. And then maybe finish, like Warren Buffett. I don't even know if this is him saying this, but like I would attribute this to him because he's all about saying no, right? So like I think I've got a saying, and again, I could have heard somebody else say this, but it's growth is yes, success is no. Translation: if 10 things get put in front of you, you should be saying, Warren Buffett will tell you that you should be saying no to 9 of them. And then maybe undertaking 1, and maybe even not even undertaking 1, by the way, because the power is just, staying focused. I haven't done an interview, and I don't even know how long, but it's been literally years. I haven't interviewed anybody, very few interviews ever. But again, I don't interview. I don't do interviews. I don't do joint ventures. We haven't done a joint venture in years. And then you go, why? Because you know what? We are just concentrating on what it is that we are doing. And sometimes those relationships are fabulous, and sometimes those interviews are fabulous. I had an experience with an interview that just, was semi-painful for me. And I just don't do them. And that's not to say that I won't. And I have thought long and hard about that. You know, I may start doing that. So I'm not saying I'm never going to, but I can tell you that I've said no to it for multiple years. And then you ask me, was that a good idea? The answer is I can't answer because I don't know what it would have looked like if I would have done a ton of interviews and ton of joint ventures. But I can tell you that we're doing fine, and here we are. So shoots, I don't know, Warren Buffett. That's some of the advice I'd give you from old the Grandpa from where's he from? Omaha, Nebraska. Is that it?
Omaha. Well, I'll tell you what interview you are going to do. That's going to be for my podcast there, Big Shoots. You cannot say no to that. You know who else you wouldn't say no to? Tony Robbins. That's one guy you wouldn't say no to, probably because the size of his hand, if he slapped you, would probably knock your head clean off of your body, I think.
Yes.
Anywho, while we are on a roll of best advice, and I always end with the Tony Robbins quote, dude, he's got so many nuggets, but when it comes to coaching stuff, what are your best nuggets, I guess, from Tony?
My best, there's lots. And again, I don't look for some listening. And again, some love Tony Robbins and some dislike him. Remember, the people that hate on Tony Robbins the most are the people that have never actually been to one of his events. Really got to look long and hard about that. The same way that Joe Rogan, the people that hate Joe Rogan the most and hate on him the most have never actually, they don't listen to his interviews. They don't really know what he's about. But anyway, so why am I saying that? I just, again, there's the Harvard Business Review, and there's so many really high level, individuals that you could be following. I think Tony Robbins got some unbelievable advice. He's taught me, again, so much. And I know you too, Road Dog. So I just want to make sure that, I think Tony Robbins is amazing. Am I going to put him in Warren Buffett's category? The answer is no. But that being said, I think that he's got so much great advice. I think he's got the content for the coaching industry. It'd be crazy not to follow him. Here's what I've said for a long time is and I've done lots of Tony, I've done, the full week events and certainly UPW, many times in many different countries, etc. His 4-day event, Unleash the Power Within, I could sum it up. If you were to ask me to sum the entire thing up, I can sum it up in 3 words. And this is me speaking, not anybody else, right? It could be horrifically off if somebody's here listening works for Tony Robbins, but this is my opinion. State, story, strategy. So what he'll say is if you're looking for a breakthrough, let's say that you're trying to lose weight, what do? You go to the internet and you take on, the diet that Oprah recommends or Jenny Craig, or you're going to go keto, or you're going to intermittent fasting. I say that right? Anyway, so you're going to go strategy, right? So you're looking for state, story, strategy. So you go to strategy, which would make sense, right? Well, what he would suggest is that that's not like if you took 7 seconds on the internet, it would be impossible for you not to find an excellent diet that could work for you personally. That if you followed through, you'd absolutely lose the 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 pounds that you need to over a period of time, right? So strategy is not your problem. What is the problem then? Well, he goes back to your story. What's the story you're telling yourself? And he'll say, you're big boned, your mom was overweight, your dad was overweight. You've always been this way, right? The single people, all the good ones are taken, right? So you got this story. And then it's things never go my way for somebody in, financial issues. But anyway, at the end of the day, you've got this story. So it's not your strategy, it's your story. And then if you go, okay, well, is that the problem? And the answer is partly, but the real problem is your state. Second to second, minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, you choose the state that you are in. So if you really want to, what did I say? Lose weight was the example. He's like, what happens to the smoker that gets diagnosed with lung cancer? Okay, they get a disruption in state, hardcore. The story instantly changes, and the strategy is borderline. I don't want to say it's insignificant because that is not true. But that being said, pretty straightforward to, you want to stop smoking. When do you smoke? You wake up in the morning, have a cigarette. You eat, you have a cigarette. Before you go to bed, you have a cigarette. You eliminate those 3 to 5 times a day where you crave them. As part of your strategy, you'd be well on your way to quitting, right? Same thing, like all diets work until 7:30 p.m., right? And then they go off the rails. So if you want to lose weight, create a strategy for 7:30 and later, and you're going to go a long way. But at the end of the day, state, story, strategy. And then the way I think that this is my interpretation of it, again, might have got this from Tony Robbins, might have got it from somebody else, but I can tell you this. Here's the way I explain it. Think of state as 95%. Think of story as 4%. Think of strategy as 1%. But the 1% does drive the 99, right? As in, you need to have the right strategy. But the reality is the strategy is the easiest. And that's where people spend 90 to 100% of their time is trying to delve into a strategy. When in actuality, you got to manage your state. You got to go to story. So anyway, so that's would be right there with the best advice I've ever heard from Tony Robbins, or that's what I would call a compilation of everything that I've learned from Tony Robbins mucked into 3 quick words that anybody could. So you want to stop smoking, state, story, strategy. You want to build a 7. Actually, this is how I start business coaching mastery. In most cases, I have there's signs all over the room, and one of them says state, story, strategy. And I go to it and I say, okay, so you want to build a 7-figure coaching company? And by the way, you want to build a 6-figure coaching company? You just want to get your first 5 clients? What you need is a breakthrough. How do you get a breakthrough? I just said it. State, story, strategy. Yes, you got the strategy, but the reality is, what's the story you keep telling yourself? And then what's the state that you're in? And especially somebody who says, I won't cold call. The problem with that individual is that they're completely fixated on themselves and what they will and will not do. Well, I'm sorry, I don't need to meet you. If that's the case, you're just fixated on you, and coaching is about being fixated on somebody else, right? So, and I hope this was on the pre-show where I said this, but Tony Robbins has made a cold call in the last 90 days. The difference is he had something important to tell somebody, so he picked up the phone and he spoke to them, right? He didn't ask for an introduction. He didn't toot around. He didn't delay. He just picked up the phone and said, hey, it's Tony Robbins. This is what I got to say, right? So for you, if you were doing what I said in the pre-show, and I'll say here, if you were doing a live event and you really felt like this was really going to move people and you were going to entertain them at the highest level, and you knew that those that came were really, really going to walk away with a roadmap and a instruction and a 1, 2, 3 and an ABC and a level of passion and a vision for their company that's going to far exceed anything they could possibly have on their own. Well, maybe you'd be willing to pick up the phone and tell the chiropractor, look, I need you there. I need a chiropractor there. We're in the same BNI group. We're in the same Chamber of Commerce group. You're in the BNI. You're in the chamber. You're advertising here, there, and everywhere. I heard your ad on the radio. I saw your ad online. I saw your ad on the online directory. And just invite them. Say, I want you to be there because you're the one that's whipping out his credit card, or she's whipping out her credit card to basically spend, 5 to 10 grand a month to basically, get the guidance and get clients. Like, they get it. So anyway, so that's, you want to break through, you want to build a 7-figure coaching company. What's going to stop you? It's not going to be the strategy. It's going to be the story, and then your state, minute to minute, second to second, minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day. So there you go. That's also his book. I've read his book, Money Master the Game, and I would recommend anybody does. It's a book about money, but honestly, I personally believe and do understand. I'm a fan of Tony Robbins, so I'm going to, recommend his kind of stuff. So you do with it as you may, and I would definitely, you should all read it. But what I would recommend is that you make it absolute must reading for your coaching clients and your loved ones. I think it's just an unbelievable book about money. But really what it is it's 80% psychology, 20%, strategy, do this, do that, here are the hacks, right? Because again, money is a story. Money is it's psychology. So from that book, you press me and you say, what's the number one thing that I learned? I would say asymmetrical risk reward, which just, risk comes from not knowing what you're doing, right? Asymmetrical risk reward. It's Warren Buffett. What's his 2 rules? 1, don't lose money. 2, see rule number 1. What really rich people do is that they stack things in their favor so that if everything goes wrong, they still make it, right? Like pros think about what amateurs think about what could go right, and pros think of what could go wrong, right? Like again, Bill Belichick, what I think is the greatest football coach of all time in the NFL. He is a stoic on steroids. He doesn't plan the plays around what he think might happen and, really good things happening. He designs the plays around what could go wrong here. What could go wrong here? What if this guy misses his tackle? What if this guy misses his block? What if this guy trips over? What if we drop the ball? You know what I mean? Like he's a total stoic. He's looking at things that, what is he going to do if things go wrong, knowing full well that, something goes wrong on every single NFL play almost, right? Anyway, so asymmetrical risk reward. Yeah, you just, it's like, okay, I'm just trying to think of a good example, like starting a podcast as a business coach, right? Like, what is the risk? What's the financial risk, the time risk, the focus risk, etc.? And really, if you started a local podcast, you don't need to spend a lot of money. What if people actually start to listen to it? What if you start, really pressing? What is the reward versus the risk? And the reward well outweigh the risk big time. A better example, you're going to do a local live event at the chamber. What is the risk? Let's say it's going to cost you $1,000. You could do it for far less than $1,000, but let's assume you're going to spend $1,000 to do your event. Okay, well that is your risk. What if you charge $2,000 a month, 24 grand a year? If you got one client, you'd have a 20. Let's just assume that they pay for the entire 12 months, which is a good chance they'll only pay for 3 months, and that would be 6 grand versus 24 grand. But let's assume they're going to pay all year because you're a bang up coach and you're going to do what it takes to keep them. That would be $24,000 for a $1,000 investment, right? That if you are not doing, you know what I mean? If you're not doing that, you should be. And that how you get there is working out asymmetrical risk rewards. What are the things that I could do right now with my coaching company to create a really unbalanced reward versus the risk that I'm going to put out? So there you go. So asymmetrical risk reward. Hope I did a good job of explaining that. But that would be my number one takeaway from the book that I think is must reading. I said this last podcast there, but like he had like a private room and he just screamed, prepare. Like he's like, you got to be prepared. What your life could change immeasurably by doing 15 to 20 minutes of preparation prior to meetings. All right, literally change your life. But the average bear, that's really easy to do, but will you? And most won't. And those that do, it can blow you away. And just Tony Robbins believed that preparation is a mistake that, where average operators and low end operators are missing the piece. And that could be the one thing that could really elevate them into that upper echelon, that, creme de la creme. Shoots, I think I should move. So look, last bit of advice, and there's lots of it. I could continue here for sure. I really think Tony Robbins got some great content that I would encourage others to digest. But hunger, like what separates a Serena, a Michael Jordan, LeBron, Schumacher, Gretzky, Babe Ruth back in the day, Pele, Messi, Ronaldo, and then the great, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Zuckerberg, Michael Dell, etc. Like what separates them from the others? And the answer is one word. And this is the word that if you ask me if I was looking for a coaching client, what's the one thing that I would want them to have? And it's hunger. You introduce me to a young, well, it doesn't need to be a young business owner by any stretch, but you just introduced me to somebody with some hunger, legit hunger, because, your comfort zone is a very evil, evil place. I think just hunger like that is what moves the needle for folks. So within yourself, you know what I mean? Look, that is state, story, strategy. That is state. In fact, road document. So anyway, so hunger, which is hugely important. And then you say to me, okay, so got it. help me manifest more hunger within myself. I just, you really got to work on something bigger than yourself. But so here's another thing so if you go to state, and you want that state to be a state of hunger, again, second to second, minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, hunger, 3 words: focus, meaning, do. Okay. So like every second you've got the option of what you're focusing on. And again, the problem most people have is they're focusing on something negative and things going wrong, as opposed to something positive and something that could go right. Right. Um, all that being said, paranoia is a very good thing to have as a business owner, but that might be a topic for something different. But just focus, meaning do, you don't want to, people want to hang out and they want to partner, they want to work with, they want to work for somebody demonstrating, positivity and a big vision and, exciting times ahead, etc. So anyway, so focus, first word, focus. What are you focusing on in between your ears? And you have the same thought for like 90% of your day. You have the same thought over and over and over again, right? So when you focus, what is the meaning that you attribute to that? And then following that, what do you do? And just real quick, Road Dog, the example that Tony Robbins will give is that he was 11 years old. It was Thanksgiving. His family wasn't going to starve. There was a knock on the door. Young Tony opened up the door, went, oh my gosh, great. Very big man, overalls, handed him a big turkey and some stuff and said, hey, give this to your parents. Little Tony Robbins focused on, wow, this is amazing. And we're going to have a great Thanksgiving dinner with my family. That excites me. What's the meaning? Strangers care. What's he going to do? Well, if you know Tony Robbins' story, he's gone on and sold, and fed hundreds of millions of kids that were basically going to go hungry of a nighttime, right? So focus, meaning, do. His dad at the time, who I believe he took his name, Robbins, which wasn't his name when he was born, right? But what did his dad do? Focus, meaning, do. He focused on this is charity. What's the meaning? I'm a loser. What did he do? He left his family, and I believe that Tony Robbins never saw him again. Right. So focus, meaning, do. Hunger, state. The way that you control that is with those 3 words. You want to demonstrate that. You want to lose weight. You want to stop smoking. You want to be more motivated. You want to get more organized. You want to operate in a more conscientious way. You want to build a 7-figure. You want to build a 6-figure coaching business. You want to do a local live event at the chamber every Tuesday at 7 a.m., but you think that it's so hard to do. You want to get over the top of that. You want to build a 7-figure coaching company. Look, 6 words: state, story, strategy, and then delve deep into state by going focus, meaning, do. So there you go, Shoots. That was what you call a rabbit hole.
That was a long one, and I actually want to challenge you on that for just half a second. And that is, you said focus, right? The focus piece, something that we focus a lot on the negative, but at the same time, you say guys like Belichick, they prepare for the worst. So is that not the same thing, that they're both focused on the negative, or what's the missing link there?
Yep. His focus is he's going to win the game. Boom.
Got it.
Right. And he is a leader and he's got that vision, but he's also, you know what I mean? Look, and Bill Belichick, right? You've seen him get interviewed. Do you know what I mean? Like, let's face it. Do you think the guy might have possibly some anger management issues, or like, you know what I mean? Because he's the greatest, you know what I mean? Just because he's the greatest football coach of all time doesn't mean that we want to trade spots with him. And you know what I mean? Don't feel sorry for his spouse, possibly. And I could be horrifically wrong. I got no idea, but you kind of follow me. But the focus is that he's going to win that game. He's going to come in first place, and his goal is the Super Bowl, come hell or high water. So he's got that. Remember the greatest speech of all time? 3 words, right? Or 4 words. I have a dream. He demonstrates that in a very real and tangible way. But he prepares for again, positive, like entrepreneurs plan for what could go right, and investors plan for what could go wrong, or analyze things that could go right, and then they analyze what could go wrong. So, but it's a balance, Shoots, and that's a really good point. It's
what's the other interesting part that I got there was, because we get a ton of questions And again, I hope people are going deeper with what Karl's saying here, because when we're talking about, state story strategy, like if I had $1 for every time, Karl, if you were given $1 every time somebody asked you, hey, what's the best way of getting clients these days? Like it doesn't matter what it is, right? Like they all work if you do, and they all work if you just apply yourself to that one strategy and stop trying to think that there's, oh, I've got to do the next big thing. Like the old things still work. So anyways, I just think there's something there where, because somebody's asking us about events in the pre-show. We know events work, right? So if you just do that and you just focus on becoming the best and delivering the most value, and just knocking that out of the park, right? Every single week or every other week, however often you're doing it, it's the consistency behind that that's going to drive that. And I just think we spend so much time looking at, man, I wonder what the next big thing is. What's the next strategy? What's this? What's that? It's no different than you talk about Money Master the Game when he talks about investing in the S&P. Like, just stop spending all your time trying to research what's going to be the next one-hit wonder in stocks, right? Like, would you agree with that?
100. Look, consistency wins over talent all day long, twice on Sunday. And of course, you need a little bit of talent, right? Let's not be crazy here. But consistency wins over talent. Reminds me, Shoots, of like Monopoly. Again, if you play Monopoly properly, right, halfway through, you feel like you're losing, right? Why? Because when you play Monopoly properly, you buy everything. What happens when you buy everything? You run out of cash. What happens when you run out of cash? You flip over your cards and you got to borrow money from the bank, right? And again, so if played properly halfway through, you feel like you're losing. And then the question is, what will you do at that point, right? So think about the guy in real estate. He's going, and like halfway through, how does it feel? You know what I mean? Low on cash, low on this, supposed to be, on paper worth all this money, but in actuality, looking at your bank balance going, what the freaking hell's going on? Driving a beat up car and their buddies are driving the 5 Series, BMWs. Halfway through, you feel like you're losing. And it's just that compounding, again, you take a penny and you double it every day for 31 days. What happens? You got $10 million on day 31. But the problem is it's day 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 for so bloody long, right? So consistency over talent, Shoots, all day long. And and shiny lights, right? Shiny lights are sexy. What did you know what I mean? Like that, and what's new and trendy and whatever. It's, success is, growth is yes, success is no. Got to say no, Shoots. So yeah, there you go. That's what I'd say.
Okay, I know we're up against it here. So if you had to just pick one thing, right? And let's get specific. Like, what's one specific thing somebody can take out of this podcast today and actually apply into their business that's going to add a client or two this week into their business?
This week. Look, consistency, conscientiousness, all of this. If I needed a client this week, okay, so I'm going to answer this differently, because if you ask me if I need a client this week and I'm a business coach, this week I don't have time to put together a live event and get enough people there on Thursday. I don't think. Maybe you can. I could, Road Dog could, but that's not, you might be a little bit newer and not feel comfortable with that. So I absolutely know that I could build an event by Thursday, but I just don't think that the average, and by the way, how would I do it? I'd pick up the phone and sell like a son of a gun. And when I say sell, I'd be giving away free seats at my event at the chamber and be feeding them and giving away. And I'd see it as a hardcore sale. I think that might be a frame difference for some listening, but here's what I do, Shoots. I would go to networking functions. And before I went to BNI down the road, I would do some homework online and I'd work out what networking groups are in my city. When are they? Where are they? And I'd make a plan to go to 1 to 4. And again, am I a big fan of networking? I think you're going to get a lightweight client and somebody who's going to cancel in 90 days, like a realtor or a mortgage broker, which, by the way, may not be the case, but generally lower end business owners are hanging out at the BNI type thing. But there's also going to be some high end networking going on. So I'm doing that. So let's just say I'm going to find 3 groups this week. I'm going to get on the phone. I'm going to book myself a spot. I'm going to go to 3 networking functions, and I'm going to demonstrate value. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up the local newspaper. I'm going to be looking at the online directory. I'm looking for people who are advertising locally, and I am cold calling them. Yes, cold calling. I got something to give away. I got something to tell them. And I would be, picking up the phone to anybody advertising. And I'd be saying, look, of course, we have software, find anybody 100 grand in 45 minutes without them spending $1 on marketing or advertising. I'd need more time to go through the script and what I'd be saying. But there'd be a nice little hook there, and I'd be picking up the phone, and I would absolutely be doing that. Another thing I'd look at is businesses for sale. I'd be calling all of those business owners. Again, they've got some pain. They're looking. I don't need to meet them to know that they're looking to sell their company and they're hoping to get a lot for it. They'd love the idea of getting 100,000, 500,000, $1 million more than what they're currently advertising it for. And by the way, they'd like it to be sold in a week versus a year. So I know a little of the conversation going on inside their head. So I'd be calling them. And that's what I would. And then if, again, you had some real jam and some real moxie, I'd be booking a local venue, and I'd be picking up the phone, and all of those calls that I just said, I would do the same thing, but I would just invite them to my presentation later in the week. And by the way, Tuesday is the best day, generally speaking, at 7 a.m. ish, depending upon where you're at. Traffic, parking, and a few factors need to be, variables need to be brought in there. But I would be, filling up an event, and because it's say early in the week as we record, I'd be doing an event on Thursday or Friday, or maybe it'd have to be Saturday, but making sure that I got 10 business owners. But I will tell you, generally speaking, cash in bank, you will make less on your Thursday, Friday, Saturday events than you will on your Tuesday events. And that for me has been consistent back in the day when I did hundreds of those. So, but at the end of the day, you know what? Maybe it's going to be different for you and your city and where you're at, and maybe the people that are going to be attracted to you and your event. So maybe you're going to adjust that a little bit. But that's how I do it, Shoots. And I would pick up the phone and I would sell. But I'm really giving away. But the way that I'm approaching it is like a madman. So
I got one quick thing, and I know that some of our pre-show attendees have dropped off, and they're going to miss some gold nuggets here. I have a feeling. Yeah. We talk a lot about this. You say sell, and that's a huge turnoff for a lot of people, and myself included, by the way. I hate the hard sell. Hate it. Right? I just It's not my jam. It's not what I like to do. And here's a realization that I had over the past sort of week and a half, and it's so basic, you're going to laugh your ass off, but I want to get your thoughts on it. And that is, we all go into coaching relationships wanting to deliver the absolute perfect experience, and everyone's going to be happy, and everyone's going to leave a positive review, and everyone's going to be a client forever. And you and I both know that that's anywhere but from the realistic reality of the world of what's actually going to happen. How much of that perfectionist attitude, and it's so crazy because I definitely don't consider myself a perfectionist, but when it comes to serving clients and wanting to deliver an experience for them, I really want them to have the best. And I really feel that even me, and I bet you even you, Karl, we could be perhaps bigger and better than we currently are if we dropped a little bit of that perfectionist mentality. Do you have any thoughts around that in terms of where do you go with it? Because obviously you've conquered it a heck of a lot better than I have. But any thoughts around that?
I want to, first of all, introduce me to a perfectionist, and I'll introduce you to somebody who doesn't get a lot done. Start with that. But hey, I want to understand exactly what you're saying to me. So you're saying the perfectionist in you is getting in the way of you. Give me the problem solving, if you could.
Well, I guess it's not even so much the perfectionist. It's the I don't want to disappoint a client, and I don't want my lack of a perfect, a really amazing fulfillment experience Like it's like I have this fear of I can't fulfill properly. Like I don't have the perfect coaching program yet. I don't have all the experience yet. And I don't, you know what I mean? Like I can't possibly deliver all of this. And then all you're trying to do is hit home run after home run, right?
Yeah.
Which a lot of coaches try and do
Got it.
every single week.
Yeah.
So like that's the mindset.
Yeah. Okay. Great question, by the way. My answer is, okay, somebody pays you, road dog. Are you prepared to not do your best, but do what it takes to get it done? Even if you currently don't know the answer, would you go find it?
Of course.
Okay, so then that solves your problem. Do you know what I mean? Because the perfection of you it's not really, I don't think it's perfection. It's the fact that what if I don't know what to do? Or what if I get myself in a situation where I'm not able to, effectively solve their problem, right? And you can solve all of that by just within yourself going, hang on, no, I don't have all of the answers. So what I'm going to commit to do, instead of committing to having all the answers, I am going to commit to do whatever it takes to work with this client to get to where we got to be. And being humble enough to know that I don't have all the answers. And that means that I will have to stop everything, get on the phone, maybe jump in my car, possibly jump in an airplane, which I don't think would be necessary. But you know what I mean? To go and find what you need in order to alleviate their concern or demonstrate value so that this was like the smartest thing they ever did.
Okay.
What do you think? So instead of
you know what I got? You know what I get out of that? And by the way, I love how this just basically turned into a conversation you and I would normally have over a beer. By the way, it totally is, folks. This is what it's like. But what I get out of that, dude, is the fact of how clear are you on the problem that you're actually solving for your client?
Okay. And shoots, yes, and yes. And then how many coaching relationships do you think are out there with business owners where they're actually solving the wrong problem? Because the business owner doesn't know, and then the coach actually doesn't know to go deeper to be able to find the real problem, right? Like a lame example, but a good one is that, somebody's struggling to fill their event and put 10 people at in the boardroom at the chamber. And the truth is they're scared poopless because if 10 people showed up, they're not confident that they can put on the presentation and do a good job. You know what I mean? So we're solving the wrong problem by trying to come up with a different script to get 10 people there and a different strategy to get 10 people there when the real problem is the story, which leads to a poor state.
But that being said, though, sometimes you got to sell the sizzle to sell the steak sort of thing, right? So you need to, as long as you're clear on what the actual problem is that you're solving, and then you're selling them on what they perceive the problem is, now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just, again, so common that a coach loses a client and then you speak to that client, and let's call them a landscaper. And the reality is the real problem they had in their relationship is they were trying to solve a problem that wasn't. They're solving the wrong damn problem.
And here we go. We've come full circle because now I can use one of my favorite Tony Robbins lines, and that is, you've fallen more in love with your product than your client.
Yes, there you go. Yes, that's it. 100%. And that comes back to, so what does that mean? You actually weren't willing to dig deep enough to pick up the phone, to speak to mentors and people that are, be humble enough to, pick up the phone and speak to people who might have the answer and might not, by the way. Do you know what I mean? To solve the problem that you need to solve with your specific client. That's it. And if you are willing to completely go all in on that attitude, there would be no client in the world that you wouldn't be willing to take on.
There it is. Love it. Love it. All right. Well, I hope that's helpful for everybody. I know that was helpful for me. So thank you, bud. I appreciate that. That's welcome to my, is this an add-on to the podcast? Like the personal coaching, the personal counseling series? Is that how this works? Dr. Karl Bryan is in the house, everybody. Literally right there you go. All right, everyone. Well, Thanks for tuning into another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the King of the Caribbean himself, King Karl. And if you're not on the inside, getting access to the pre-show, like, come on, you've got to get access to the pre-show. You aren't getting Karl's daily emails, which, hey, you heard some of his blockbuster jokes at the beginning of this. But seriously, if you want more information on how to build, grow, and scale your business coaching practice, visit focus.com and subscribe today. And of course, if you enjoyed the podcast, as always, please leave a review. Please like, share, all the things to make sure that we get this message out to the world. And that is it for another week, folks. We will see you on the next episode. We appreciate you for tuning in. And remember, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.